Hey guys, welcome back to another video. As you can probably tell from my last two uploads and the title of this video, but this week I am continuing on speculating about the switch skills we could get for each weapon. This week's video is talking about the Lance and the Gunlance. By this point you guys already know the format and have heard this intro enough, so let's get right into the fun part. When I first looked at the switch skills for the Lance, I was a bit nervous, because it looked like they already used all of the good options from Lance as switch skills. However, after playing Lance for a bit in Generations Ultimate and Iceborne, and seeing all of the variety of moves there, I realized just how many options there are for it. So, starting off with the Silkbind moves, the one that seems like it is up to get a switch skill in Sunbreak is Lance's Twin Vine, a move where the player attaches a kunai on the monster that acts like a tether, allowing the player to hop to the position of the monster and perform some aerial moves, allowing Lance to get good mounting damage on monsters as well as instantly close distance between monsters. Looking at the other skills, we have another counter, as well as a grounded Silkbind counter dash, most likely indicating that a replacement for Twin Vines will not be a Silkbind counter for the weapon. Looking at Generations Ultimate, the first move that comes to mind when talking about potential switch skills is the Healing Shield Hunter art, a move where you smear a healing substance on your shield that causes a wide cloud of dust that heals you and people around you. I could see the justification for a move like this being a Silkbind move, simply being that the hunter ties potions to the outside of the shield with the wirebug silk. Alternatively, another hunter art from Generations Ultimate is the Corkscrew Jab, which is simply a very powerful jab with the Lance that has very good range. I kind of doubt this move will get in as a Silkbind, however, since Anchor Rage and Rise seems to have combined the Enraged Guard and Corkscrew Jab Hunter arts together. The next area of switch skills we have are the moveset switch skills, and Lance has quite a few options from those to pick from. Looking at the switch skills we already have for Lance, we have the dash attack that gets replaced by shield charge, or the Shield Assault Hunter art. We also have the normal guard that gets replaced by the adept counter with a very, very tight window. So, seeing that these moves already have switch skills, it's reasonable to assume that other moves will get switch skills. Looking at the other major moves Lance has, you have the two types of pokes, the charged wide sweep and the counter thrust. The pokes are the most iconic part about the Lance, since, well, it's a Lance. Because of how popular this move is on the Lance, it's likely that this is the next candidate for the next switch skill. And it just so happens that Generations has a move that changes the properties of the triple poke combo. In Generations, unless you chose Striler style, the default triple poke combo was relatively similar to the normal poke combo, with the difference being that the third hit of the poke combo would be a slower version that was a multi-hit. So, an easy switch skill would be to just replace the triple poke finisher with that slower, but stronger move. The next move we could look at for a switch skill is the charged wide sweep. Now, I'm not a Lance player, but I've heard that people were unhappy about the charging mechanic they added to that move. So as a switch skill, let's just remove that move altogether. In Generations Ultimate, Valor Style also removed the ability to perform the wide sweep, but to replace it, it moved the shield attack there and gave it a guard point. This in Generations Ultimate guard point didn't combo into anything other than the dash attack, but it reset the triple poke combo. In Rise, this switch skill could be changed so that performing a successful shield attack counter can be followed up by a wide sweep that does the damage that a charged sweep would do by pressing X, the triple poke finisher by pressing A, and the dash attack, or shield charge by pressing X and A. The only general downside I see with this switch skill is that it kind of falls into the category of just being the better option, so I could see it only allow you to follow up the guard point with the dash attack like it does in Generations Ultimate. The next weapon we have is the Gunlance, another one of the weapons that have great examples of the concept that switch skills have. Looking at the first candidate for a switch skill, we have Guard Edge, a counter that sharpens the Gunlance a very good amount and allows you to follow up with a few different moves, like Wyvern's Fire, Fast Wormstake, a Shell, and the Slam. This move is very useful to the Gunlance, so any silk bind that could potentially replace it needs to be able to make up for it. I think the best move to replace this one would be another counter, since Gunlance currently doesn't have a natural counter, and seeing that the counter we currently have is more utility focused with the sharpness gain, it would seem like a new silkbind counter would probably be more attack based. Looking at the hunter arts and styles in Generations Ultimate, Gunlance doesn't have any counter hunter arts, and the only hunting styles that have a counter are Adept and Valor, but they're already kind of been added with Quick Reload and Guarded Reload. So, let's look at another weapon that has a counter that Gunlance can steal from, and since Heavy Bowgun has already stolen a bit from Gunlance, it's only fair we get something from Heavy Bowgun. Heavy Bowgun has a silkbind move called Countercharger, that uses the force of impact from an attack to buff the bowgun by making charged attacks charge faster. As a silkbind for Gunlance, this silkbind could be adapted so that instead of buffing charged shells or something like that, even though charged shelling desperately needs to be buffed, rather, the counter could activate the Dragon's Breath Hunter art. Because Rise doesn't have the heat gauge, Dragon's Breath could be modified to only add a shelling buff for a period of time. Next we have the moveset switch skills, and Gunlance has quite a few different moves that could be added to it. Currently, Gunlance has charged shells that can be replaced by Blast Dash, and Quick Reload that can be replaced by Guarded Reload, so the core shelling based moves are still available for a switch skill. Starting with Wyvern's Fire, the obvious choice to replace it is Dragon's Blast, which is a more powerful and less safe version of Wyvern's Fire that deals more damage. In Rise, this move could be modified so that it has a longer cooldown, but deals a lot more damage. To avoid a situation where one move is better than another, I could see Dragon's Breath looking at the guarding capability that normal Wyvern's Fire has in Rise, so while it does more damage, it's much more risky. The next area of the Gunlance is the Wormstake, and an easy replacement for this would be the Make the Wormstake Blast from Iceborne. I know that the Wormstake Blast is pretty iffy with Gunlance players, but the main problem with it in Iceborne was that it was hard to put the Wormstake on monsters, since the only way you coils was to either shell 2 times, go through the whole wide sweep combo, or press the shell button right after a full burst. All of these were super slow, and in most cases the monster would be long gone before the Wormstake even came out. And on top of that, every time you missed the Wormstake Blast, or even got it in a bad place, you coils have to grab slinger ammo and perform a special reload to put it back. The main difference in Rise would be that moves like Ground Splitter, Guard Edge, and Charged Shelling allow you to place the Wormstake very fast, and replacing the regular Wormstake would also mean that you would only need to use the full reload or guard reload to, well, reload it. I could definitely see this as a switch skill, but I would honestly prefer that the Wormstake is fully added to the Gunlance like I mentioned in my previous video, where Gunlance gets a customized bowgun-like menu where you can choose between the 3 Wormstake and shelling types for every weapon, but I doubt that will happen, so Wormstake Blast as a switch skill works for now. Lastly, we have regular shelling, which just like the other 2 aspects of shelling also has a potential switch skill candidate. Valor Mode introduced many new features to all the weapons, and Gunlance is no exception. Valor introduced a new mode for shelling, where each consecutive shell did more damage, and was also blue. This could be adapted as a switch skill a bit differently from a 1-to-1 translation. One of the best playstyles for Gunlance has always been the full burst playstyle, something that really works well with normal shelling. However, other Gunlance playstyles, like Wide Shelling's Poke Shell combo and Iceborne's Charged Shelling spam for long shelling haven't received as much love. So as a switch skill, Valor Shells could still function similarly, except that it favors consecutive charged shells and single shells and not full bursts. So anyways, that's it for my switch skill speculation for these weapons. I really hope they make some other changes to Gunlance in Sunbreak, like giving long shelling the supercharged shell instead of wide shelling, making Wyvern's Fire do a lot more damage than it currently does, and the customized bowgun thing I mentioned earlier. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you soon.